Is it ready? Again is gone, yeah. Is it live?
It's coming.
Just check.
Is it
Hello?
live?
Yeah, start.
Very good afternoon. Welcome to this online program of World Parkinson's Awareness Day. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues, so we apologize for keeping you waiting. So we have a very brief session today online, and we will have a detailed recording of this will be posted. You can log on and look at that. We'll all be sending you a link for this whole details. Now the basic program is that to create awareness about the Parkinson's disease, and Dr. Joshi will be talking about the clinical aspects of the Parkinson's disease. We haven't had any major breakthrough except that different medicines are being tried medically to improve the outcomes. Similarly, different surgical targets are being tried to improve the DBS outcomes. DBS still remains as the gold standard for the advanced Parkinson's disease. And I would like to clarify one thing about the apomorphine. A lot of people are being misled, saying that apomorphine is the treatment and we have to stop everything and take apomorphine. It's not true. Apomorphine is a very good drug. It is given subcutaneously. The only problem with that drug is it lasts, action lasts only for the 2 hours. So therefore it has to be given as an infusion continuously. Do not think that in an injection, you take one injection and you will be cured of this or you will be better off. And it works as good as Syndopa. That's the great advantage. So whoever is not able to take Syndopa due to reasons where there is a problem in the stomach or patients are undergoing some surgery or whatever may be the reason, the oral medication is not possible, that is the time we can substitute apomorphine. And those who have got severe side effects can try apomorphine but they have to carry with a pump, and the pump is filled with the drug and it delivers the drug at a very low quantity and you will get the similar benefit. So this I want everyone to be very clear. Don't get misled that you can stop every medication and take one injection of apomorphine and then you will do well. So the last point I would like to highlight is that a lot of information is available now that the bacteria that is available in the intestines, the kind of food we take, the food allergies associated with, and similarly the oral health, the hygiene of the mouth, and the bacteria present in the mouth have an impact in the Parkinson's disease. This is a new development. Hopefully, this will lead us into a further direction. Now, we all know that Parkinson's disease starts either through the nose, gets into the brain, or mostly in the intestine, and then comes to the brain. And we are trying to find out the methodologies, how we can modify the diet, lifestyle, and eliminate all food allergies if we can identify completely. Probably we can avoid this disease or postpone this disease. That's going to be the future research. And a word about lifestyle is very important. Particularly, I want to stress upon the emotional well-being. You all know that there is a vagus nerve which supplies the intestine. That is the one which carries all the information into the brain. And that is how the Parkinson's disease starts through the vagus nerve from the intestine into the brain and then spreads to the rest of the brain. And then only all these tremors, shaking and other things will manifest. So before all this happens, it is important that we keep our emotional well-being in terms of trying to be happy, trying to be contented, regular exercise, regular diet, good sleep, pranayama, and good diet is going to be the very, very important role in managing the Parkinson's disease in future. Particularly emotional well-being. The more irritable you are, more angry you are, more jealous you are, or more unhappy you are, more depressed you are, it is going to produce a wrong chemicals in the body which will disturb the balance, eventually create this problem. On the other hand, if you are happy, you are all the time loving, kind, and these are called divine emotions, and the vagus nerve can get stimulated, and through that you will get a better ecosystem inside the brain, which will either delay the disease or make the disease a little less complicated. I think this is going to be a research topic for the future. It also has got to play a lot of role on the autoimmunity, which each one of us can have because of this interaction with the food allergies. And last but not least, good sleep is very important. Regular exercise. How do you stimulate vagus nerve, keep it more dominant? One is by the posture, straight sitting posture with chest forward is supposed to activate the vagus nerve. The second thing is regular exercise. Pranayama is supposed to increase that, and any kind of a chanting or singing also is known to improve the vagal nerve function. So with this brief introduction, I would now pass on to Dr. E.V. Joshi, our senior neurologist and head of the Department of Neurology at Brains. He is going to give you a brief about the newer advances in the Parkinson's disease, how we are going to go forward. After that, we have a talk by Mrs. Srimati on nutrition, how important it is going to be in lifestyle management as well as the management of the Parkinson's disease, and subsequently by Adil. Dr. Adil is going to speak about the regular exercises, the part of that well-being part which I have already mentioned about. Thank you.
So greetings and welcome to this event on the World Parkinson Day 2021 at Brains Hospital, Bangalore. Now, basal ganglia support group started by Dr. N.K. Venkatramana and Radha Krishnaswamy, Ramaswamy, conducts a yearly program for PD patients and caretakers. So today we have 4 specialists. You have already heard the neurosurgeon, Dr. Venkatramana, then myself, the neurologist, and Mr. Adil will be the neuro rehab and neuronutrition by Srimati. We are going to talk to you about our holistic program here at the Brains Hospital. Anxiety or fear of future is associated with diagnosis of any chronic illness. Now, you have anxiety. Now, unexplained fear, palpitations, worsening of the tremor, dryness of the mouth, passing urine frequently, looping thoughts, and insomnia are the usual symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder. Some people even get panic attacks, and these are bizarre symptoms which could be difficult to diagnose and is very distressing for the patient. Now, why I am talking about this is because the effectiveness of the PD medication is reduced in the presence of anxiety, and the PD itself tends to progress faster. So what we have observed in our practice is the more educated the patient, high profile patients, they tend to have more anxiety. And the poor ones, like the farmers, they come, they surrender to the doctor, and the fear component is much less in them and they get better faster. Now, having told about the COVID times, now many people are asking whether should I do the vaccination or not. So all Parkinson's patients, especially in that age group, should go for vaccination. There is no need to be, scared of anything. There is no issues with vaccination. We have all done our vaccination. So regarding the anxiety symptoms, I would recommend you to discuss these symptoms with your neurologist. And there are various things that one can do. Regular exercise and medications like Buspin and Nexito are useful in managing anxiety. In my practice, I found belly breathing the most useful. So let me demonstrate the belly breathing, and you can also learn this from the YouTube. So the belly breathing is about, I'll stand up and just watch my chest. So you can see my chest hand and abdomen hand. So what you do is, when you take in deep breath, the abdominal hand should come out like this. So when you breathe out, you see the chest hand should not be moving. So this is also called as abdominal breathing. So the real breathing muscle is the diaphragm. So when you take in deep breath, the diaphragm moves down so the tummy comes out. So this is called the belly breathing. You can, it will take a while to learn this, and you can practice it. You can take guidance from the YouTube. You search for belly breathing, you will get the details and demonstration of how to do this. So with that brief note, I will invite our rehab specialist, Dr. Adil, to talk to you about exercise programs.
Hi, good evening everybody, and as rightly addressed by Dr. Venkatramana and Dr. E.V. Joshi regarding the recent advances in terms of medical management. So I would like to throw light on other non-pharmacological aspects of managing Parkinson's disease. And so one thing is very important, that we have to understand that there is no, there is no changes in the longevity of the life once you get Parkinson's. The only thing is we have to, fight with some of the symptoms like slowness in the movement, or, rigidity, tightness, that's what we call, or, bradykinesia, like slowness in the movement, and tremors at times, and so these are postural instability, gait, these are a few simple symptoms which we have to fight. So, and this signifies mainly about your quality of life, right? So this affects the quality of life. All right, so one important thing is, what I have observed in the clinical practice is that most of the patients, they don't have the, good tracking of their clinical symptoms. Whenever they meet the doctor, and first, there is no regular follow-ups. Second thing, once they meet the doctor, they are not aware of their symptoms, what has happened between the 5-month period, 2 months period, 3 months period. So, that has a big impact on the alteration of the medications or the medical management. So, what is appropriate is, as advised, and regularly, so that you are well aware of your symptoms. Second thing is, there are two ways of assessing your clinical symptoms. Because certainly once you meet a doctor after 3 months, 4 months, you say earlier I was walking well, now I am not able to walk. That's not an, that's a vague presentation of the symptoms what we do. So if we are aware of exactly what has happened between the period you met the doctor before, for example, you say that you are same like before because you are well aware of your symptoms, so the medications remain same. The next time you go, now you know there are two ways of self-assessments of the clinical symptoms. One is you can assess it yourself, make a small diary, write very simple symptoms like how often do you freeze, how much is the tightness, how slow is your movements. All right, so you make a diary. 1 month you write how much you are able to walk. Whenever you feel a difficulty, how many times you feel a difficulty while rotating or walking in one line. So either you can do it or your physiotherapist or rehabilitation team can help you to make one diary. So in that way you will reassess yourself. And whenever you go to the doctor, so you will say that this is what it is. Either you will say that I am same the way I met last time to you, doctor, I am same, so the medications remain same. Either you say no, earlier I was able to do these things, now I am not able to do these particular things. So your medication dosage will increase little bit, right? So otherwise, haphazardly, if you go and meet a doctor, you say that, oh, earlier I was able to walk, now I am not able to walk. Then there is no parallel between the medications and your clinical symptoms. Medications will keep on increasing, and a time would come wherein the medications would not work, right? So that's how it is. Initially, initial once Parkinson's in the early stages is picked up, so the dopamine therapy helps a lot, but later on as it advances, then pharmacological medications and all wouldn't help that much, right? And being in short, what I would say is there has been lots of researches which is being done. One of the research was done in reviewing the literature, wherein in the PubMed we checked lots of researches, and the most of the researches were showing, most of the research, what we had, this Parkinson's disease with exercise therapy, Parkinson's disease with yoga, most of the papers in the public were on that. So that shows how important our rehabilitation program is. So there are certain tests which we do. For example, as I told, one symptom is bradykinesia. In that we do time up and go test. We just tell the patient, stand up and walk a bit. So you come to know what is the reaction time. If a normal individual is there, he would immediately get up and go and walk. Whereas in terms of Parkinson's, there would be some time lag, and this is a very simple test which could be taught to the patients, and they could write it in their diary and do it at home. Another test in terms of your balancing, this is called a Berg balance scale, wherein there are certain parameters which you could write, and in that parameters, that would help you to get the self-assessment done. And 6-minute walk test, we tell you to walk 6 minutes and have some parameters noted. So this also gives you the indication. At the same time, we have one scale also for the Parkinson's, unified scale for the Parkinson's. So that will again help us to know the symptoms of Parkinson's. As I told earlier that these symptoms are very, very important for your medical management as well. Help us in the progression of the help us to delay the progression of the disease and help us to lead a quality of life. And in the recent advances, now what happens is there is a habitual as we know that most of the patients would freeze at times, those are the axial, symptoms which are dominant in the later stages of the Parkinson's disease. So the concept is there is the habitual control for balancing and gait, that's usually in the posterior part of the putamen, one of the nucleuses inside the brain, inside the basal ganglion. So if we can shift that habitual concept into the goal directed control to the anterior, putamen, wherein, can direct a goal, we can give you a goal, you have to relearn it, right? So in that we have some cueing strategies, which is very recent strategies. For example, auditory cues, or you could say visual cues, or a tactile cues, or cognitive cues, right? So that would help us. For example, in auditory cues, you give some rhythmic music, or in visual cues, wherein you keep some obstacles around so that they are overcome, or in terms of your tactile cues, you tap on the leg, and same way in cognitive, mental imaging appropriates. For example, mental imaging, you make a map. Patients would make a map inside the brain that, yeah, I have to do this thing. So as he keeps relearning, I mean, this process happens through the neuroplasticity, as we most of us know that, part of the brain which we use. However, the other part of the brain can be used through the engram formation, which is nothing but the network formation. For example, that's what repeated movements is neurodevelopment. As you keep on repeating something, your brain would feed it, because as we know, brain has no eyes, it just perceives the movement. As we keep on repeating the and for example, you do an exercises, again exercise has to be tailored. It cannot be, it is an individualized tailored exercises. You cannot do exercises haphazardly, because there is a proper exercises prescription which has to be given to the patient after evaluation. So again, principles of exercise, like how much you want to do, frequency, mode, intensity. Exercise whole day, but you're not doing it correctly, you're not doing it, you are not going to get the desired results, right? And lots of researches in terms of treadmill, whether treadmill helps in helps in lowering the fall. Parkinson's 1 year and had one fall once, so he would be able, I mean, there is a tendency he would fall 2-3 times in the next year as well. There is a research done on this treadmill walking. In the treadmill walking and the virtual is just made very simple nowadays. It's available throughout India, and you have one small camera that's a connect, and you have to just stand in front of the camera, and it would be reflecting, your image would be reflecting on the other side of the wall or the screen, and you could perform lots of exercises and in terms of balance and gait and many other exercises, just like your Tata Sky. Nowadays, I mean, now most of the people are using it. I recommend most of my patients for that, and the research showed that virtual rehabilitation is much better than your treadmill training. And in most of the research proves to be very significant. It improves your mitochondrial functioning inside the cells, and many research on that. So there's something called as boxing training, which has been very used quite often in US. And of course, one of the very recent advances is in aquatherapy, water therapy, and there's lots of literature on that. Three of the very important reasons aquatherapy would help is: one, it is a low impact exercise. With the help of the buoyancy also, with the help of the buoyancy also, it helps to in terms of your balance and gait, and it's very safe as well, because even if you fall in the water, you're not going to hurt yourself. So in that way, I mean, it's been used in other countries very well, in Bangalore, and physiotherapist in that, who could handle the patients in the water, because as we know, it's very difficult to on the land-based rehabilitation, when it's very difficult to do it on the land. So at the same time, how challenging it would be in the water, you can imagine. So we and there is one very in terms of speech also, there is lots of recent advances. So at the same time, it's not only about exercise therapy and physiotherapy. It is an integrated approach. It is a teamwork, which starts from your neurologist or a neurosurgeon or a physiotherapist and music therapist, and so aquatherapist. So all the or the swallow therapist, all the team has to integrate and formulate a proper program to see the desired results, right? And most of the times, like occupation therapy also plays very important role, because most of the patients come and say they cannot sign because of shaking and all those things. So occupation therapists are more specified, they work on this mixed compensatory strategies, and they combine it with the mental and cognitive strategies to get the desired results, so that we are able to do the activities which helps us to do our activities of daily living as well. Same with speech and swallow therapy. Have little bit sound, they most of the patients say that they're not able to speak louder, at the same time speech therapy also plays very important, lots of research on that. And one of the most recent research done in NIMHANS in Bangalore, in Tai Chi they call it, and that also helps a lot in Parkinson's. As the dance therapy also, that also helps a lot, as we know, and because certain moves in the dance, like tango, that will help in the movement initiation and cessation and directional changes and turn. And as a ballet, in your dance therapy would help in flexibility and balance. This is what all research says. And music therapy also, at the same time, in the lots yoga therapy also plays. There's lots of research on yoga therapy, like Iyengar yoga, which helps a lot in terms of improving the quality of life and achieving the activities of daily living. And I thank you all, and so we hope we meet soon, and work together, as we had the opportunity this time to speak to you online. However, any doubts, we're always connected as usual. Thank you so much. And I would like to request Srimati Madam, she would come and give you an insight about neuronutrition, which is very, very important. for the integrated approach for our Parkinson's. Thank you so much.
Greetings from Brains. I'm Srimati Venkatraman, clinical nutritionist, Brains Hospital at Richmond Road. We are meeting online this year for the World Parkinson's Day. As many of you have already met me, and you also know that neuronutrition is very, very important for managing many neurodegenerative diseases as well as autoimmune conditions. But on Parkinson's Day, let's talk about nutritious balanced diet for Parkinsonism. And also I will tell you a brief tips about how to manage different symptoms on the condition that many are facing. This will also be given inputs for the caregivers as well as the persons who are facing this condition. There is no one diet for Parkinson's disease, but what you eat will definitely affect how your medication works and also ease other common symptoms or which we normally see in this condition. If you are a person who have comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, or even other things like COPD or anything, so we'll talk about first the main condition and also the different comorbidities that you face. Now, why should we have a nutritious balanced diet? It is very important even for a normal health. It is to manage your condition. Make sure that you have whole grains. What is whole grains? As long as it is not processed like maida or sugar or even refined foods. So make sure that you have whole wheat, quinoa, brown rice, oats, and definitely our own millets like foxtail, barnyard, ragi, finger millet, which is what is called. So all these traditional foods are very, very important to maintain your gut health. As Dr. NKVR had already mentioned that gut health, the vagus nerve is the one that stimulates the brain. To make sure that you have a good gut health, that also helps you to manage the symptoms of the tremors, the prevention of fall, and how well you manage your daily activities to ensure that you don't go into malnourishment or to manage your poor appetite and also the loss of weight. Now, first of all, as I already told you, have whole grains, then definitely have healthy fats. What is healthy fats? Healthy fats is not just oil and butter, but make sure that the oil that you have is a combination of polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats in the form of mustard oil, sesame oil. Cold press oils are better because it is not refined. And also you have all these nuts and oil seeds, our very own sesame seeds, which is till seeds, and also badam, walnuts. All these are good healthy fats. They also contain omega-3, which is very important for the brain, and include more fish and poultry if you are a non-vegetarian. Have egg whites for protein instead of red meat and organ meat. So as long as you know there is a nutritious balanced diet, avoid processed foods like ready to eat or ready to drink because they have food additives, food colorings, and also preservatives which are also not good for your gut and your brain. So make sure that you avoid all these processed foods and definitely include antioxidant containing foods like green tea. You can have coffee in moderation, no problem at all. Dark chocolate has antioxidants, so if you are a diabetic, go for the sugar-free version. Make sure that it is 80% or higher cacao. Cacao is basically the cocoa thing that gives you those good antioxidants for your brain and also for your whole body. And make sure that the dark chocolate which you are selecting is less in fat, so that you make sure sugar-free, less in fat, 80% or more cacao. And also definitely have fruits, seasonal fruits. The more colorful you eat, the better it is. And yellow, orange, green, red, purple, all these are antioxidant rich. Whatever the color may be, break the monotony. Don't have the same vegetables, the same fruits again and again. Every 3-4 days, try to have different colors. The more colorful the variety you eat, the different vitamins, minerals, antioxidants which goes into your body for better health. Also have all types of vegetables and greens. Now let's talk about protein redistribution diet and Parkinsonism. You will be taking medications in the form of levodopa or syndopa to manage your symptoms. Now the problem is it is the gut as your protein is getting absorbed. So if you think that your medication is not working effectively or it is not kicking in as soon as you expect, there is one more thing which you can do. Definitely talk to your doctor. But one more thing which you can do is try to redistribute the protein. So have your these medications like levodopa or syndopa or whatever you're taking to manage your symptoms 30 to 60 minutes before your food. Otherwise, have it 30 to 60 minutes after your food. If you are having 30 to 60 minutes before your food, if you're taking on an empty stomach, if you have nausea or anything, try to have some crackers or some ragi porridge or an oats porridge along with it, maybe some 50 to 100 ml so that you can tackle the nausea. And then maybe 60 minutes later, you have your meal so that the protein is not trying to have the same absorptive site as your medication, so your medication will work better. Or better still, you can have your protein in the night. Usually you have your medication in the morning because throughout the day you want to manage your symptoms of tremors or shakiness. So what you try to do is have more protein in the dinner maybe, and anyway after that you're going to go to bed after 2 hours after your meal or 1.5 hours after your meal. So you can make sure that you have it later part of the day, more protein at later part of the day in the form of beans, legumes, your rajma, your chana, all types of lentils or dals or fish or your egg whites, and also definitely your eggs, fish and poultry. So protein redistribution is what is important in Parkinsonism to manage your symptoms. At the same time, you should not completely cut off the protein because you need that for your muscles and also your cell and tissue repair. So ensure that you have enough carbs, the complex carbs, good protein, good fats and fiber in the form of fruits and vegetables. Now let's talk about some of the symptoms that you face like constipation. So constipation is a very common side effect in all the seniors and especially in Parkinsonism. Make sure you have 25 to 30 grams of fiber every day. If not, at least up to 40 grams. But the recommendation for a normal adult is about 25 to 30 grams. But better still, you need to have at least 40 grams. It's better because you can get it in the form of fruits and vegetables. Only plant foods have fiber. No other food have fiber. So ensure that you have your fruits at least 2 bowls a day. You can have it with your breakfast. Even if you're a diabetic, you can have low glycemic fruits like papaya, guava, muskmelon, watermelon, and also your apple, musambi. Those are low glycemic fruits. Otherwise, if you're not a diabetic, please ensure that you have seasonal fruits. You can have anything you want that is in season. You can have it with your breakfast. You can have it between your meals or have as an healthy snack at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And also make sure that you at least have 200 grams of fruits and 200 grams of vegetables per day. This 400 gram combination ensures that you get 25 to 30 grams of fiber, which will enable you to tackle the symptom of constipation. Do not forget to have fluids. It's not just having fiber that is important. It is also important that you take enough fluids in the form of water, tender coconut water, fresh fruit smoothies, not juices, because it is better that you have it in the form of fruit smoothies because the fiber is not discarded. You're not filtering away the fiber and throwing it away. So fruit smoothies, and also definitely plain water. Do not be afraid to go to the bathroom. Many seniors, what they do is even for a fear of fall in the bathroom maybe. So later part of the day they stop drinking water. Please don't do that. Ensure that you have water throughout the day and you hydrate yourself well. Have high fiber fruits. So we spoke about constipation, we spoke about protein redistribution. Let's talk about dry mouth or difficulty in chewing or swallowing. Now for the dry mouth, which is an after effect of your medication, take some popsicle sticks, which is maybe some ice chips or some ice cubes, which you can just keep it in your mouth to generate saliva, or even unsweetened candy, or some even dry ginger or ginger, which you can just tuck it in your between your chin and your in your mouth, so that you salivate more. And also try to have popsicle sticks, which is unsweetened sugar cubes, I mean unsweetened fruit cubes, which you can keep it, so that will initiate the salivation in your mouth. That will also help you, because you have dry mouth, it is more difficult to chew and swallow. Now for difficulty in swallowing, it is important that you have assessment from a speech language pathologist, and also ensure that you have pureed foods. If there is a problem in chewing, make sure that you have soft foods, or even your toast or your chapati or your ragi mudde, anything you want, you can just soak it in dal water, your bland sambar, or any liquid that will help you to soak it and make it soft for easy chewing. And swallowing, make sure that you have bite-sized fruits or pureed foods, or a consistency that will enable to swallow safely. Easy and safe swallow is very important, because you don't want to cough or aspirate. Especially in drinking liquids, sit upright and make sure that you drink through a straw. If you're not able to control your you're drinking water, ensure that you're doing it through a straw. And also, when you are holding a cup in your hand, you can have the double handled one, which gives you more confidence, so that you don't spill on yourself. Have a double handle, a sipper cup or a straw, or any other thing which is spout, which is easy for you to drink. My mouth has been addressed. Now talk about poor appetite. Anyone cannot eat a large meal with your medication, with the heat and also your symptoms. Eat small frequent meals throughout the day. Hydrate yourself, and also have the proper spoons, or because of the tremors, try to drink from a cup. Spilling, the family caregivers has to be more sensitive. If the person wants to try for themselves, it's okay to spill. Allow them to try, so they regain their confidence and their independence. Have patience with them, understand them, have a nutritious balanced diet with enough hydration, and space your meals, redistribute your protein. Weight loss. I just want to thank you all for joining today. I would request Radha Ramaswamy ma'am to talk a few lines if she is available online to conclude this session. Ma'am, are you there online? Okay, thank you all for joining from Brains Hospital. This is Srimati signing off, and hope to see you all, and you can always watch the re-recording. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಬ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ನ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣ ಅವರು ಮತ್ತು ಮತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ಡಾಕ್ಟರುಗಳು, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೇಸಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಂಗ್ ಸದಸ್ಯರಾದ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. ಆಧಾರದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಇಂದು ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಕಿನ್ಸನ್ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ತಿಳಿದ ವಿಷಯ. ನಾನು ರಾಧಾ ರಾಮಸ್ವಾಮಿ. ಸುಮಾರು 15 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಬೇಸಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಲಿಯಾ ಸಂಘವನ್ನು ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣರವರ ನೇತೃತ್ವದಿಂದ ಮೀಟಿಂಗನ್ನು ನಡೆಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸಬ್ಸಿಡೈಸ್ ಮೆಡಿಕೇಷನ್ ಸಹ ಕೊಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಸನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಾಯಿಂದ ಕೊಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಪ್ರತಿ ತಿಂಗಳು ಸಭೆ ಸೇರಿಸಿ ಮೀಟಿಂಗನ್ನು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಡೆಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೆವು. ಬಹಳ ಜನ ಇದರ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಪಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ಕೋವಿಡ್-19ಇಂದ 2 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಏನೂ ಮಾಡಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ವರ್ಚುವಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೋತ್ತರದೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ನಡೆಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಕಾರಣರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವೆಂಕಟರಮಣವರು. ಅವರ ಸಹಾಯದಿಂದ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಮುತುವರ್ಜಿಯಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗಿದೆ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.